Dan here from 𝒂𝒂𝒂. I am in Siem Reap, Cambodia, with Chung Hoi. We've been here for 4 days now. We leave tomorrow. We fly to Bangkok, but I wanted to do a walking tour for you of Siem Reap. Everyone comes here to see the temples, but there's also a city here called Siem Reap. Right now I'm on along the river here. There's a nice walk in the evening, so it's nice and cool. They have these white street lights from French colonization, and this is part of Indochina. And there's a nice walk along the riverfront here, which I'm going to take you on. And Siem Reap, this city spends a lot of energy on trying to attract people to go to the temple, so that's really what most of it's about. See, as you'll learn from my temple tour, there's 3 tours I take: day 1, day 2, day 3. You'll learn that Siem Reap was, or Angkor, the city, just a few kilometers north of here, was believed to have about 1 million people living here in the 15th century, at a time when Beijing had about 600,000, and Beijing was the largest city in the world. So right now we're in a fairly small city, but what used to be here was one of the largest cities in the world, potentially, and amazing architecture, amazing arts. And at that time, it was called the Khmer Empire, dominated most of Southeast Asia, and so most of Thailand, much of what's now known as Vietnam, all was part of Cambodia. And now Cambodia is kind of considered a smaller country now with not a lot of resources, but it used to be a powerhouse, and it's all reflected in the temples here. But while you're here, you probably also want to go on this nice little tour along the colonial area, along the riverfront here. So we'll take you along. You've probably already seen our 1, 2, and 3 day itineraries for Angkor Wat temples. While you're in Siem Reap, check out our must-see tour. There's a Google map for this tour. Just click below this link if this video looks fun and start walking. So you've seen the dilapidated versions of these nagas all over the temples the last few days. I thought I'd show you what a modern recreation looks like. These are like, if you will, the banisters that run over bridges and entryways into temples. And here's a modern Wat that people actually worship at rather than an ancient relic. I'm not going to spend much time in there, but let's take a peek. I love this saying here. Yat Atman Buddha, not to do any evil, to cultivate good, to purify one's mind. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. See, Buddha was trying to become awake. He spent much of his life trying to become awake. He finally became awake. There were Buddhists before him, and there's been Buddhists after him. Some people have forgotten that Buddha was a man. And I don't mean that literally, they forgot he was a man. I mean in practice. People criticize others that are saying they're awake, like it's impossible to be awake. Well, that's denying Buddha's whole purpose. He learned to become awake. There were others before him that were awake. That's how he knew to become awake. And they're all Buddhas. Buddha didn't try to, he wasn't deifying himself. It was others that deified him. He doesn't want you to think you have to be special to become awake, nor do any of the other Buddhas. Anyway, just a lesson for you. So inside the temple, there's the Buddha, and there's also a reclining Buddha in the back. There's the piece of wood that came from, that I talked about yesterday, and some of it's in the boat out front that we saw, and some of it's in the Buddha. That's what we read out front. So this is the story, the origin story of Buddha. His name was Siddhartha. That's him in the carriage there. He hadn't really seen much of life or been outside the city. He kind of had been sheltered. So one day he told his driver to head outside the city, and he did. And he saw old people for the first time, and he saw death. And he asked his driver, Chana, I think was his name, what is that? And he said, that's, everyone dies eventually, and we all get old before we die. And he was disturbed by this. And then he asked him to take him back to the temple because he was sad. And then along the way they saw this meditating monk under a tree. And he said, who is that man? What is he? Why is he happy? And Chana explained that he was a monk, and that he was meditating to find the true meaning of life, or the awakening. And so there were monks before Buddha and monks after Buddha, and anyone who's awakened is a monk, or is a Buddha. Buddha himself called such people Buddhas. That's the origin story of Buddha. So he spent the rest of his life learning, becoming awake, and once he was awake, he wandered the planet all over the world and helped others become awake. And that's Buddha's story. So at the night market here, Chungwei's just seeing if there's any like $1.50 meals that look appetizing. This one?
Yes. Yeah. One? One? Yeah. One, two. Yeah.
So the meals that we ate while we were in Siem Reap are all on our Food and Life video. Like I said, if you click below this, you'll find links to all of our videos we made while in Siem Reap and Angkor Wat. For some reason, my audio went out in this next few videos, so I'm just doing a little voiceover for you here. So this, as we continue on our tour, it takes you along the river, and then it takes you through a couple markets, which we'll show you, and ends up in the old market. And again, all of this is on the map, and you can come check it out. And so I'll let you enjoy the next few videos until the audio comes back by playing music.
ไม่ได้เพ้นใช่ไหม
จ้ะ
What is it? Is it painting? เพ้นเหรอเพ้นทำไมเพ้นแล้วเอาไปทำอะไรเงา
So next we go to the what's called the old market. It's across the way, but technically this one's called the Siem Reap Art Center Night Market. And there's like 3 of these wooden bridges. You just cross the wooden bridge to get over to the old market. So this is the old market. Now this is a tourist market. You can tell because the tourists expect a different kind of presentation, and you're getting it here. If it were a Southeast Asian market, the floor wouldn't have to be, so perfect. Everything wouldn't have to be polished. People buy because the price and the quality is found on inspection, even if it's sitting in a plastic bag on the floor. So you can expect to pay about 100% more if you buy in a market like this. So sometimes you'll find what it is you're looking for, and it'll still be 200% off what you pay in the U.S. if you went to a quote foreign market to find it. Like, can't even remember the names of those places. Those world kind of markets. Hello. Now this part is local. See if you can feel the difference. Look at the floors. This part of the market is a local market. Most of it's closed because the food is sold up until about noon. There's some people stay open like this until 7 or 8 at night. But there's also restaurants over there where you can get probably a $1 meal, maybe a 75-cent meal. But this is local. I'll show you what I mean. See the floors, see the presentation.
Rồi cái trào.
Ấn à? Thôi cho mời nào.
The truth is, in a market like this, you can still pay too much if you don't know what the product should cost. You still have to bargain, but you're going to get a local price if you know what you're supposed to be paying. Yeah. And so, it'll take you a couple weeks to figure out what stuff's supposed to cost. Do you need a pig head? Oh, I've lost my audio again. You're probably wondering why I'm talking about pricing so much. My niche, if you will, is retired cheap in paradise. If this is the first time you followed me, I talk about the cost of living all over the world so you can retire cheap. So that's why I'm talking about price. It's for my subscribers. Thanks for watching this video. Again, click below if you'd like to find out more about Siem Reap and Angkor Wat or all the best retired cheap places in the world. And please subscribe to Vagabond Awake to find out our next video. Have a great day.